Present.
Scott Brackett,
Present.
Charles Burrows,
Present.
Mike Finnegan,
Present.
Tim Gerlach, John Stutzman,
Present.
and we have a quorum.
Good. Now we're at the Pledge of Allegiance. And Janie, you're gonna handle that, I believe.
There's our flag.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're down to approval of the minutes from the past meeting. Do I have any adjustments there, Dave?
Yeah, I really think I voted on the 8th page down where it says abstain, at the bottom of the page where there was a motion that I had made, and I'm listed as abstaining, and I don't believe I abstained. I might have been very quiet when I voted. And then I also found another area on page 10, the 4th paragraph down. The next to the bottom line of that paragraph, the paragraphs or the sentence starts, they have, and it says insured him. And I believe the word Joe used was assured. Does that make sense? Joe?
Yes, thank you. I was just looking at the minutes.
Yeah. So if we could make those changes, I would move that we accept the minutes.
Anyone else with corrections or hearing none?
I'll second the motion.
Second the motion from Bill. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 2, consideration of public comments. Because it's a virtual meeting, they can be submitted in writing. I'm not going to read it all, but it's standard now for the Zoom meetings all over the city to have this, and so everything could be corresponded in writing to the airport authority or the airport if we need it. Any questions? Okay. Reports. We're down to number 3. Business park staff report. We'll let Bennett handle that one, I guess.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman Brackett and Commissioners. Go through a couple of different updates. The Economic Development Facebook page and the airport Facebook page have been up and running for over a month, going on our 2nd month. And we've been getting a lot of positive feedback. We've been posting, I would say, more than 3 posts a week on average. And as planes come in on the airport side, we do a lot of photos of the planes, and then we've been sending out all the updates and the NOTAMs on the work that has been done on the runways projects and other things, just keeping everybody in the loop what's going on here at the airport. The airport website, this last month in November, we had 936 views or visits to the website. It's down slightly, but I think a lot of that is because of the holidays right now, and you know, it was over Thanksgiving, and so you've got a lot of just a lot of quiet times. I think it's probably gonna be like that coming into December and should be picking back up. The previous month, we had around 1,100 visits to our website. With that, we also have a place where anybody with any questions can go in and send us an email. I think we had 12 inquiries last month on the airport side, and we had about 15 inquiries on the economic development side. The airport decal or logos have been completed, and those have been printed, and we're going to be, I think they might even be going up on the monument sign today, coming into the airport and the industrial park, as well as it'll be placed on our administration buildings in the windows. So that's taking place. I'll give you a quick update on the 1,800 acre land release. We recently had a meeting in December, or I'm sorry, it was it was December. Kaufman and Associates, they continue to work on chapters 1 through 4 for the environmental assessment, and we had the consultant for the sorry about that. It was for the SW, what is it? SW?
Yeah, the environmental piece.
The environmental piece, yeah. They came out in December, and we walked them through the property. We took them out. They wanted to look at some of the dump site out on the side of the airport over there, and then they looked at all the other sites around the park. Right now, we discussed the logistics for hosting a hybrid in-person virtual meeting, which will probably be in January of 2021, later in that month. And our next meeting is going to be January 13th with the FAA. The rail, in October of 2020, we had about 618 cars stored in the park, with 172 cars switched. November had about 468 cars stored in the park and 136 cars switched. That falls in line with what we had the previous year during that month. Couple updates on some projects. You guys have probably seen a release in the paper, Project Colt Builders. They are regarded as the nationwide leader in commercial multifamily wood panel, where they basically build the panels of the walls, and then they ship them out to the locations where they are installed. They've already started the grading on their project, and their site plans have been submitted into the county. Their building plans have also been submitted, and we anticipate that project's going to be coming off the ground in the next month. So in January, it should be off the ground. It's about 50 new jobs to the park over a 3-phase period of the project, which is over 2 years. Those phases will be built. Sorry. We also have other projects that we're working on right now. And I can just give you some of the code names of these. A project we call Rosie, and we're in real close negotiations on finalizing that project. They are looking at existing buildings within the industrial park. They'll be looking at around 200,000 square foot, another 50 jobs if we can bring that one together. We're looking at about $7 million capital investment into the plant. So also we're seeing some more activity with projects that came earlier in the year. We had a project in December of 2020 that reached out. They just site visit. We showed them some property. They just recently got back in touch with us just this last month. And I believe what's going to happen is they're going to be planning another trip out here within the next, probably in January, coming out. We've got a project called Grow, and that project is in close to, let's is that somebody else's computer? Tim? Or- There we go.
You should mute everybody but you, Bennett, really.
Yeah.
That helps.
Do that, Lisa? Or, I'm sorry, Jeannie? There we go. So Project Grow, we're in close negotiations on that, in finalizing. This one's gonna be a little bit smaller in jobs, but we're gonna have about 75 cars or rail cars a month coming into the park with this project. So that's gonna be a real increase on our rail. We had a project that came in through the state this month, and we submitted 40 acres of land as a potential site for that project. That project is it's a full-on West Coast search. They're looking throughout all of Phoenix, Nevada, Utah. Not really looking in California, obviously, but you know, there's a lot of potential sites for them. They did say they wanted to look at some sites here in Kingman. So typically they don't come in and say that when they're doing a major search like that. So it was real nice to potentially be at the top in that list. Just in the last couple months, we've had some California companies that are looking at some expansions here. I've worked two of them that actually have already found houses out here. We've been looking for buildings. Looks like they're gonna land on something. So those smaller companies, one of them is an expansion out of California to expand and kind of set up a shop out here. And then the other one is also an expansion to do some trucking. So we've seen a lot of interest, you know, coming out of California more than we have in the past year. So I think a lot of that is, you know, due to some of the restrictions and the inability to do some of the things that are going on there. So I think that hits on everything. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, sounds good, Bennett. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Joe, looks like you're up for the airport staff report. And I know that Commissioner Gerlach has joined us, so let that be noted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna share the monthly report. I sent this report out to all the commissioners a little earlier today, and this, I'll go past the budget report and touch on that here shortly. But I think this is going to be the format that I'm gonna try to get to everyone on before the meeting, just so you have an idea of what we're going to report on. I realize there's not a lot of detail on this. It's more of a list of things that I'm gonna talk about. But it gives I think it gives the commissioners the opportunity, if they might have any questions, that they could be a little bit better prepared than just responding immediately when I'm doing the report. So first thing I'll report to you is that effective on 4 January 2021, the airport division will begin reporting to the Public Works Department. I had created a report that was based on some research that Lisa helped me with. We contacted airports around the state just to talk to them about their reporting relationships with their various city sponsors or state or county, as the case may be. And then we evaluated the situation that we're currently in, as well as looked at the various field departments with the city, like Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Engineering. And so I provided a report to Mr. Foggin, and he made the decision here a week or two ago that we would make a change in our reporting structure. So starting on the 4th of January, I'll begin reporting to Assistant Public Works Director Jack Plonty through the Public Works Department. So we're excited about that. You know, we think we've had a great relationship, continue to have a great relationship with the Economic Development Department, but with the Public Works Department being a field department, having more very similar, you know, a lot of similar activities to the types of things that we do, the ability to share equipment, share staff, it's a better fit for us. So that'll be beginning on the 4th of January, as I mentioned. That's a Monday, I believe. We had a resignation actually last week. Mr. Van Hoos has resigned from the city of Kingman. So we're in the process of starting a new selection process to fill that position. I've been working with HR to get that recruitment going. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. We also have had one of our other staff members has been out on leave for the last week or so. So we actually have had a public works employee that's been training with our existing staff member and working every day. So, we were fortunate that, we'd already started building this reporting relationship change. And so we've been getting some help from Public Works. And they're going to continue to assist us until such time as we're able to fill our vacancy. Staff scheduling and security coverage. So I've actually proposed and been given approval to change staff hours, how we cover the airport. And so it was going to be effective around the 1st of the month, around the 4th of January, that we would change our schedule so that we'd have an employee from the airport here every day, working a regular first shift tour every day. And so to do that, we had to take 2 of the positions and actually change them from everybody having weekends off to those 2 positions, one of them having Friday and Saturday and one of them having Sunday and Monday. So this will allow us, as I said, to have coverage 7 days a week. We're not going to have 24-hour coverage at this time, but we're going to a 7-day-a-week coverage. Of course, as you might expect, with the recent resignation and with one of our other staff members being out on extended leave, we may not be able to implement that right at the 1st of January as I had proposed to do, but we will get there fairly soon, or as soon as possible. With that, we're discussing and having some conversations with our security service provider to see what it would require to actually have a security guard on staff during all non-staffed hours. So essentially what we're trying to get to is 24 hours, 7-day-a-week coverage of the airport, about half of that by our staff and about half of that by having an assigned security guard that could keep an eye on things while we're gone. That's still in the investigatory stages, and certainly we don't have the budget to do that right at this time, the approved budget. But that's what we're looking at, is trying to get to a broader coverage of the airport. Every other airport that I've worked at has either had 24/7 coverage or at least 7-day coverage with some security supplementation. And I believe that it's the proper thing and the wise thing to do to actually be able to have somebody on site pretty much all the time in the event that something happens, as well as to prevent and discourage potential nefarious activities, of which this week, for example, or last week, for example, some damage to an aircraft was discovered. And, there's two things going on. One is we don't have coverage here all the time. Not that any one person can see everything that's going on. And the other thing is we have an access control system that's pretty open. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So that's what's going on with regards to scheduling and staffing at the airport. As I mentioned, we're beginning the process to search for a replacement for Mr. Van Hoos, the airport operations and maintenance specialist position. I've created the requisition in our internal software, and so HR is getting ready to put that recruitment out there so we can select a new employee. We expect that that's going to take some period of weeks between the advertising and getting back applications and reviewing the applications, setting up an interview process. But we have started on that, and I actually expect that recruitment to open this week. Additionally, we continue to work on the selection for the airport general manager, which includes publication or advertisement on our site, as well as through the Arizona Airports Association and the Southwest chapter of the American Association of Airport Executives networks, which is a common practice for advertising positions within our state and within our region. That process, you know, we're putting those final things together so that we can get that opened. I do recall that at the last meeting, I believe it was Commissioner Burrows had asked if you would have an opportunity to review the announcement before it goes out, and I'm certainly trying to do that. As soon as I get it, I will send it out to the commissioners so you can look at it. You know, it may be a pretty quick turn. We're trying to get this opened this week. We're actually trying to get it open last week, but I haven't received that announcement yet. But we are working. We're hopeful that we have somebody in place. You know, the holidays will delay us a little bit, but if we get the recruitment open this week and do the first review of applications sometime by mid-January, if we've got sufficient applications at that time, we can start the review as well as start thinking about scheduling the interview process. You know, I expect that it'll probably be late February or March before we would get somebody actually in place. But that's what we're working on there. Just a quick update on airport projects. The oil site update I was actually going to show you a photograph of the site that we're going to try to develop here. And I actually need to put that in our capital planning for next year. But we got some photographs from Phoenix Goodyear Airport and the site that they have, which is kind of a both oil, solvent, tire collection, battery collection, all in one location. But unfortunately, I'm not in the office, so I'm not able to show that to you. Suffice it to say, we are continuing to work on this. It is our intention to actually put have a drum available at least at the maintenance building, that anybody who wanted to come by and drop their used oil is going to be able to do that. And I started working on that, and then the vacancies in the staffing have kind of slowed me down. We completed crack seal, full length of taxiway Charlie. That was done last Tuesday, a week ago tomorrow. And so I think we put about 2,000 pounds of crack seal material, 2,200 pounds of crack seal material on taxiway Charlie. Many people will say, well, why Charlie? That's some of the best pavement we have on the field, and that is true. And your money is best spent preserving your best pavement as opposed to trying to bandage your worst pavement. And, you know, as you recall from when I was here 2 years ago, I'm all about taking care of our infrastructure. So I've begun there. We're going to try to do some more as budget allows. Another thing that I'm looking at is a lot of the spalling and holes, if you will, on the concrete taxi lane that runs along the front of the airfield, kind of along the perimeter fence. There's a lot of, you know, that concrete area, there's a lot of spalls and broken concrete. There's a great material called Rockland that I've used at other airports. It's a two-part kind of an epoxy type material that you use some aggregate chips in it. Anyway, I'm going to try to do that. I've got some pricing for that. It's about, it's a few $1,000 for a 30-gallon kit of the product. So, so I'm working on that as well. Chains on the tie downs and painting. I know, as I told you before, we've done a little bit of painting. I actually got some chain in last week. I got a good spec that I was comfortable with, and I ordered just one bucket, or 250 feet of chain and some fittings to make sure that what we ordered was acceptable and that we liked it. If it works out well, then we'll order the rest of the chain and continue rechaining the tie downs. Here again, that came in, I think it was last Tuesday or Wednesday. Of course, I was out of the office and we are a little short-handed this week, but we are working on it.
Joe?
Yes.
If I could interrupt, when would that chain and the additional, like the S-hooks, be available to look at?
You can look at, go ahead.
The chains are better than the S-hooks. I mean, the S-hooks, my kid's swing set, I think, has stronger S-hooks. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I've been the most concerned about. Okay. We've got that in stock now?
That's affirmative. I ordered, I think, 3 different kinds of S-hooks. You know, enough to do 1 or 2 tie downs for each one, just for that reason, to ensure that they're adequate. It's kind of hard when you're buying stuff online, but to buy online is much cheaper than to go to the Home Depot and buy a, you know. So there are currently, were delivered last week, I think 3 different kinds of S-hooks that you can go take a look at, as well as the shackles for attaching. So once again, I bought 250 feet of chain and about 2 or 3 different kinds of each kind of hardware, so we can determine what's the best thing to use. But they're there now in the shop.
When will you be back so that we can get together with you and look at it?
Probably not until 4 January, 4 or 5 January. I think I drive up on the 4th and I'm in the office on the 5th. And that's because I have a trip scheduled next week to Montana that, as long as my girlfriend doesn't get sick and as long as I continue to be well, I plan to go. That's been scheduled for quite a while.
Well, be sure and take your long underwear.
You bet. Yeah. Yeah. Going to Montana in the middle of the winter, not real smart, but that's what we're doing. All right. Resuming, we have the covered. I've begun looking at having some solar lighting installed on the covered tie downs, the shades, if you will. We've had one company, we've contacted another company, but we're waiting on a quote from one company. And this is just to put some LED light fixtures on the underside of the shades to provide some area lighting, and to power them through some limited solar installation on top of the shades. We haven't gotten any pricing back yet, and we're just in the what I thought it was. I don't think it's going to be dreadfully expensive, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to try to improve those existing covered tie downs. Yes, go ahead. Somebody have a question?
As someone who flies at night and lands and wants to tie down at night, I am really grateful to have a little bit of additional light so that I'm not walking around with a flashlight in my mouth.
Yeah.
And something else that we might think about for shades would be some type of locker that somebody could keep some oil in. This was things that you weren't aware of, but when we were looking at the possibility of adding some additional shade tie downs, because there is a waiting list, we were going to try to put not only solar on the existing, but solar on the new tie down, or electricity of some sort. There was a discussion of how much it would cost to cut through the cement going from the C row out to where the shade would be. And also, Joe, we were looking at putting in some lockers so that you could keep some oil, rags, things like that. Maybe chalks, other things, so there'd be some and the lockers were only going to cost about $4,000 for 20 lockers, so they weren't going to be expensive at all.
If you would provide me with some specifications on those lockers, we'll investigate that. I actually was aware, based on your and I previous conversation about this, and that's one of the reasons I started investigating the lighting. We've looked into lockers just very briefly, but whatever you have on those that you can provide to us, I would appreciate it.
I'll bring it to you on the 4th.
Okay. The 5th, actually. I think I'm driving up on the 4th, and then,
okay.
But I'll make sure you're aware of my schedule. This is the portion of the show where we actually provide prizes for correct answers. So this next item, SP HPM painting. Anybody want to take a guess at what that means? Well, hearing none. Surface painted hold position markings. So the red and white signs that have the runway numbers on them, those are the proper name for those is hold position sign. We've got them surface painted on the ground, hold position markings, and some of them are in kind of some poor condition. What I mean is faded from the sun. I'll show you some pictures later of our new, little bit of our markings, but more our new sign faces. So anyway, that's something else that we're getting ready to do. we were going to give everybody, we were going to actually give an all expense paid trip to a condo on Maui for anybody who can answer that correctly. I'm sorry that we didn't have anybody that was able to do that. That's a joke, by the way, just so we know that I'm not being frivolous with city resources. Anyway, that's something that we're getting ready to do. Like I said, most of the ones along Taxiway Delta are in pretty good shape, but on Charlie and on Alpha, not so much. So we're going to be doing some repainting there. The runway project is essentially complete. I'll show you some pictures later. We'll talk a little bit more, but all the pavements in place, all the permanent markings are in place, all the new sign faces are in place. We really got a good product. They're coming back one more time. They had to actually order, you know, we put that overlay on the runway, the threshold lights at each end of the runway, the red and green lights, we need a riser ring installed to bring those up to current grade. Well, they weren't able to order those until the pavement was all in place. They were actually able to measure precisely what size ring. So they got to come back and do that, but it's going to be pretty unintrusive, if you will. But a great job was done on the project. Sunland Asphalt was the contractor. CNS Engineering was the engineer and construction administrator, and they did a really great job. Taxiway, go ahead.
Joe, by the way, I've used the runway and it is a wonderful job. I agree with that. The question is, were all the runway lights repaired?
Negative. And that's just because they're still waiting on some parts. There was only 4 or 5 of them that were damaged and they were spread out all over the place. And so they did replace, I think, one in pavement light that they had parts in for. But they'll do that when they come up to do the riser rings. But they will, won't let them get away with not fixing the lights. And here again, it was pretty insignificant considering the scope of the project.
Thank you.
Yep. Taxiway B. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Taxiway B in an agenda item that's coming up under new business. But the bottom line is that's going to be getting started fairly soon. We got the grant offer from the state, the paperwork that needs to be done. And so we'll be getting about $1.25 million from the state to do the construction of Taxiway B. Taxiway B will be reconstructed in its entirety. In other words, all the way from Delta, all the way to essentially down by where Alpha Zulu is at the end. But we're doing it in 2 stages. The first stage will be out to the hangars where Mr. Baumann has his hangar out there. I think he's one of the box hangars that we have out there. So that's the first phase. We'll be getting our construction documents ready for bidding. And that project will probably begin sometime, I'd say towards the summer. Could be late spring, but I'm inclined to think it'll be summer before we get a contractor on board and everything. So that's moving along. Fence project. This is the project for the relocation of the perimeter fence. We have the grant that we received was a CARES Act grant that actually, I think I've mentioned before, will offset operating expenses in our budget, salaries, for example, to the tune of $69,000. And then that reclaimed monies, then we can use for the project. The CARES Act you can't actually use for development projects on an airport, but you can get it for operating expenses. And then, like I said, we reuse or reclaim that approved budget and do the project. So we're moving along with that. We think we're going to be able to do the work under of our cooperative agreements that the city participates in with other counties and municipalities around the state, so that we may not have to bid in the traditional way. We'll already have a contractor in place, what's called a job order contractor, for some of you who may be familiar with those. So we think that will work, but we're checking into that. And in the meantime, I've got the engineers starting to do the documents that we need, basically the site plans and specifications for the relocated fence. Terminal painting and landscape, we actually have pretty closely almost selected a contractor to repaint the exterior of the terminal. We got 2 quotes. We asked 3 or 4 painters to provide pricing, and we only got 2 quotes back. But we think we've got a good quote, and so we're going to be starting that project, you know, probably sometime within the next month or so. But we have essentially made a selection of who we'd like to go with. We're working out the details right now on that project. The landscape project to re-landscape the backside of the terminal, we're still awaiting, you know, we had some engineering and surveying done, and we're waiting for the engineer's report on what we may or may not need to do to the area back there to ensure proper drainage. But we are moving forward on that. I don't know, we'll get there. Landscape services is another project that we have we've completed. We actually had 3 contractors bid on providing regular service, monthly service, if you will, to our landscaped areas at the entrance along Mojave Airport Drive, all the way from Route 66 to Flight Line Drive. And that'll include, you know, keeping the weeds down in and along the drainage areas, keeping everything trimmed, and that kind of stuff. So we've selected a provider for that. We had 3 quotes. We met with all 3 contractors to actually get a feel for how they would approach the work and did some reference checking. So we're in a position where we actually have awarded to the provider. I approved the PO just today. So that's going to be Innovative Landscape. They do a lot of work around their local Kingman company, as all 3 companies were, but they do a lot of work around town as well as around the county. So pretty happy about that. It relieves our staff of some of those responsibilities. So that's the projects and maintenance report. I think I remembered something while I was providing that, and now I've forgotten what it was. So.
Oh, I got some information for you before you get into the FAA stuff. On your oil site, I actually have an oil containment system that was used for restaurants, and it's got probably more storage than a 55-gallon drum, and certainly a better deal because it's got a locking lid on it and everything. And it was made for, you know, where they store their stuff from restaurants and they have a company come pick it up. So it's got a screen on that little 10-inch or 12-inch door on the top, and like I say, locking and everything. And it would just need to put some sealant on the corners. That's the only thing it lacks on the inside. But I'd be willing to donate that to you guys if you wanted to try that.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I'd be happy to look at it and would be happy to use it if it'll work for us. We need to make sure that it fits on a secondary containment pallet. That's part of the process, is in case you have a failure, it doesn't allow the whatever the product is to leak. But thank you for that, and I'm happy to look at it. Yeah. FAA and ADOT coordination. One thing I did want to mention that Bennett didn't say was we've actually, the FAA on the land release, they've actually accepted the schedule that's been proposed, which is a major starting point in the process. I know it's kind of weird to say that we've now got a starting point because we've been working on this for months. But it is one of the critical elements that they say, yes, we agree with the schedule that we're trying to work towards. Now, that doesn't mean that, as with any schedule, it might move a little bit. We're hoping that actually it moves closer as opposed to further, but it's a major issue for us is to get that project, that schedule accepted. So just briefly going through these items, we've talked about some of these already, so I won't belabor the process, but you know, I'm working with the FAA and ADOT on a weekly basis to ensure that we're current on all of our grant reimbursements and submittals and all of that stuff, and that all of the submittals that we need to make to them are done in a timely manner. I have you always want to make sure and keep the regulators happy, especially those regulators that give you large amounts of money. And so we work with them on a regular basis. If you recall, at our last meeting, the commission approved a recommendation to the city council to surrender our Part 139 certificate. That was contingent upon the fact that doing so would not cause any kind of detrimental results to the airport, including having to pay back any grants. I've had a lot of discussion this last month with the FAA, and I think we're fairly comfortable that there's not going to be any. However, I've submitted the final letter to them asking for that clarification in their response, and so I've also told them that we expect to take this to City Council for approval in January, the 5th of January, and so I'm hopeful to have that response back from them but that's one of the things I've been working on this month. I mentioned the land release schedule. The CARES Act grant coordination, we're getting all of the documents ready. We'll be submitting that for that $69,000 CARES Act. The finance department's putting together the documentation that's required right now. And so we expect to have that within the next few weeks. And we'll draw that $69,000 down and all in one lump sum. Drainage study update grant. So this year in our FAA grant for this year, because the one that we just finished with the runway was actually from last year, because their fiscal year starts the 1st of October. But for this year, we are going to do a master drainage study of the airport. And there actually was one done, and I believe it was 2005. It was completed, and so this will be an update. But we need to put together some projects. So there's some issues with the levee that protects the airport from drainage out on the east side of the field, where that both the way that the channel is, as well as the levee itself, needs some repairs. And so that's going to be one of the projects that's going to be identified in the master drainage study. But we've received a letter from the FAA that acknowledged that that's the grant that we'll receive this year. It is our intention to have our on-call engineering firm actually perform that work, and the sub that they've identified is the same sub that did the previous master drainage study, which is always helpful, beneficial, and economical, or more economical. So that project is moving forward. We haven't really started swinging hard at it yet because the money doesn't flow usually until sometime in later winter. The first grants start coming out of the FAA, but that's the project that we're working on this year. I mentioned Taxiway Bravo. I won't talk about that. And we also have submitted a match grant. So when you get an FAA grant, you get 91.06% of a project's value under your grant, and then you have to cover the rest, but you can apply for half of that match requirement to the state. And so we've applied for that grant. I'm waiting for that to be issued. It's small in comparison, but hey, half our match is better than having to pay all our match to the FAA. So we're waiting on that right now. Equipment, I think I mentioned last month that we've decided not to purchase a new backhoe or a new scissor lift. We have been able to get a backhoe reassigned from Public Works. Actually, I think it was with the water department. They're actually doing the evaluation on that now. They're running it and kind of putting it through its paces to find out what needs to be done. Ultimately, they'll put a set of tires on it, and what was budgeted for about $70,000 are going to wind up costing us a few $1,000s. Now, it's not, brand spanking new shiny backhoe, but it's a backhoe, and it will serve the needs of the airport. And then if we need something to do something that it's not able to do, we can either borrow a piece of equipment from Public Works, or we can rent a piece of equipment on a a per project basis. But that's coming. The scissor lift that the Public Works actually reassigned a scissor lift to us that they very infrequently used. That's been transported to the airport, and it's here now. That actually had been budgeted for $17,000, and we got it essentially for signing the papers for the asset transfer. It still belongs to Public Works, but then again, the airport's part of Public Works now. So it'll be garaged at our location, and should they need it, they'll come out here and pick it up instead of vice versa. I remember the other project I wanted to tell you about. Exterior lighting on the hangars. A number of the outside lights that shine around the ramp areas in and around the the T hangars are out. And it was decided before I got here that instead of continuing to fix those old incandescents, we would install new LED fixtures. Those fixtures had been bought and delivered, and so we're now in the process of starting to replace those. We put in a work order with the Public Works Department to have their electrician come out and actually replace those exterior lighting incandescents with LED fixtures. That was a thing I thought of earlier. And then back to equipment, FOD Boss. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this. Maybe Scott has, since he's kind of hip to the industry, but several years ago, probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 years ago, a company developed this. It's basically kind of a drag behind picker-upper that you drag behind a pickup truck or another kind of wheeled vehicle. They work extraordinarily well. We've been using them at the Phoenix system airports and at Glendale for a long time. The sweeper that we have is a vacuum sweeper, and it does good for certain things, and other things it doesn't do as well on. Picking up larger debris, just little rocks and pebbles and twigs. This thing really does a good job on that. It costs about $7,000, and I think I'm going to try to purchase one this year with some of the savings from the other equipment that I mentioned. But it's a really good device for the kind of picking up that we need to do. Another thing that over in the area kind of where the concrete taxiway bends down by, well, past the sheriff's hangar, familiar, it goes along and then it makes an angle. That deteriorating asphalt through there was really creating a lot of FOD. So here again, our sweeper doesn't work real well for that. But while the contract was here, I had them take their kick broom over there and knock a bunch of that FOD and debris off of there. And I've also got Brewer Code of Arizona is going to come up and look at the area and see if there's not some kind of product that we can just kind of smear on there to hold some of that material in place and reduce some of that FOD, because that's a real FOD generator in that area right there. So draw site. Whew. So here's another one where we might have give away a new car, if anybody can tell me when they think the federal government's going to come out and get that done. Any idea? Anybody got a suggestion? Yeah, me neither. I am working on this. To be quite honest with you, it's not something I've been able to weigh in on and really leap on. I need to spend some time with the city attorney. Mr. Cooper actually is our primary liaison with Haley and Aldrich, the engineering firm that works on our behalf. And I haven't been able to sit down and really talk to him in detail about this, and I haven't reached out to Haley and Aldrich. And Pedram Ashragi, who I've worked with for a number of years from Haley and Aldrich, is the project manager for us. So I will get some time to wade into this a little bit. But when I look at the progress that we've made in the 2 years that I've been gone, or maybe I should say lack of it, I don't think I need to rush too much. And what I mean by that is, you know, we're gonna get this done, and the federal government is gonna make good on their responsibilities. But right now they're waiting. They've approved, I think I mentioned last month, they've approved the location for the excavated material to be transported to. And now we have submitted the remediation plan, and we're waiting on them to approve that. Go ahead.
Where did they decide to go to on that, Joe?
It's somewhere in Nevada, and I don't know where.
They're going to Nevada.
They are.
That's an expensive one.
Yeah, and the reason, I guess the other facility that was in Arizona, down towards Havasu or something, I'm not 100% on this, but I think they said they wouldn't take it. I mean, that would be the only reason we wouldn't have gone there, because it's cheaper. But anyway, yeah, it's the Nevada site that's been identified and that's been accepted. The DOJ has said, yes, okay, that will work.
Joe, initially there's a lot of soil that's really not in bad shape, and there was talk about just swapping the not in real bad shape soil out with soil at the end of the runways. And that would be a lot less soil to get rid of. Is that still a possibility?
I have no idea. I haven't met with, I don't know what the remediation plan that they've submitted for approval is. And it's not something I've had the time to look at since I've been back.
Okay, so you didn't win the car either.
I didn't, no.
Well, another question, if we could back up a second, how much space do we still have available for storage of large aircraft, commercial aircraft? Are we about out of space, or do we have some space left? Because one of the reasons we wanted to move the fence was because it gave us storage for about another 200 aircraft. What's our available space currently without moving the fence?
We still have quite a bit. I'll show you, when I show you a photograph a little later of the fence project, where we still have available space and some of the work that's been done to make that space usable, if you will. We're not out by any means, but we, at the rate that new aircraft have came and are expected to come, we'll need that additional space. So I'll show you kind of what we've got later, but we still have room for, you know, dozens of airplanes currently. Okay. Yeah.
Good. I just didn't want to run out of space.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because it's a good deal.
Good source of revenue.
Yeah, I'm going to jump to these last two items and then come back to this council report, because I actually want to show you the PowerPoint that I delivered to council the other day. But just for information, on the 18th of January and the 15th of February, which are dates for our advisory commission meetings, those are both holidays. One of them is President's Day, the other one's Martin Luther King Day. And so we could have, and I think that the city observes Martin Luther King Day as well as President's Day. But I throw it out there just for us to be thinking about, that we may want to adjust next month's or February's meeting accordingly, especially with Zoom. We require that IT assists us with that, you know, with the Zoom meetings and with the recording and with the broadcasting and all of that. So if they're not working those days, then we might want to do something different. And then finally, go ahead.
Joe?
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner.
On our meeting dates, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that came up last month, and we had asked Janie to look into available time slots that we could permanently set our meeting. Or am I incorrect about that?
So my recollection is that we actually made the decision at the last commission meeting to move our monthly meetings to the third, from the second Monday to the third Monday. And I don't remember if I mentioned then that, you know, as with any Monday, you're going to run into the occasional holiday problems. But my recollection is that we actually did move them to the third Monday at the last meeting. So every third Monday at 1500 is our meeting. These are the new challenges. Now I've looked at all the rest of the year, and there are no other conflicts for the third Monday. But these first two in the calendar year, we do potentially have a challenge. So I just wanted to bring that up to the commission. And Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, you can address it as you see fit. We could vacate a meeting, move one, vacate one. You know, I mean, it's entirely up to you. But I just thought it was my duty to bring it up.
Is there, Joe, is there any commission that meets on the second Tuesday of the month?
Yeah.
Yes, that was the conflict.
That was the problem.
What commission meets on the second Tuesday?
The Transit Commission, and they meet, I believe, quarterly.
Yeah, but they're on a Monday, aren't they?
Oh, I'm sorry, you said Tuesday. Yeah. I don't know, we didn't look at Tuesdays.
I believe when I looked at Tuesday, there was nothing on the second or fourth Tuesday of the month. Those are opposite days from when City Council meets.
Except for some time.
And seldom do we have a day off or a holiday on a Tuesday.
Right. Except for occasionally they'll move City Council around a little bit, you know, holidays or whatnot. Right. That's pretty unusual. And then the other thing is, yeah, the only Tuesdays that you would run into are the date fixed ones like Veterans Day and something else. Anyway, like I said, we didn't look at Tuesdays, and it's entirely the commission's pleasure as far as what they'd like to do. I'm just bringing up that we have a couple of conflicts coming up.
Pardon me, the second Tuesday, Planning and Zoning Commission meets then.
Okay, thank you.
Who was
Janie.
that?
That was Janie.
Okay.
Planning and Zoning.
How about the fourth Tuesday? Anybody?
Fourth Monday.
Or the
Yes,
fourth
the
Monday?
Historical Preservation Commission.
Okay.
I really, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I think we're in the best place that we can possibly be in. We just have a couple of things that we need to account for. You know, I don't know that I think the third Monday is a good alternative, as you know, we've investigated. We just have a couple of spots where we have to work on.
Well, Joe, that's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, just to make it a one-time. Yep.
Just to make a change for these first 2 months.
Yep.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood. I thought you were entertaining changing. Okay.
How about the 25th, Janie? That's the fourth Monday.
25th.
Of January.
Yeah.
Janie, are you able to tell if that's available?
No, sir, I cannot.
I see.
Okay. Well, how about, it's at the end of the month, how about just tentatively setting it, and if something pops up, email, and then we will have to set it some other ways.
I think that's an acceptable approach. And once I get out of this screen, I can look at my calendar, but I don't think there's necessarily any problem, you know. And I don't.
I'm sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I don't know when the Transit Commission is meeting in the month of January. I think they do have a January meeting, but I don't know what date it is.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that for the January and February meetings of 2021, we set them for January 25th at 1500 and February 22nd at 1500.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure that this particular agenda item is one that we can take action under. I think this is just a report, although I think we certainly can take action perhaps as we move forward. But here again, I'm not an expert. I just want to caution.
Okay, we'll delay that, Bill, until we get to the next segment, and then we'll do it that way.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
when we're taking action, well, on something else we're taking action on, I think it would be appropriate. Yeah. So let me go to just give you a flavor for a presentation that I did for City Council on the at the last meeting on 15 December. There's the new logo. I think most of you have seen it. We want to thank, you know, all the folks, all the staff at the airport for their work, as well as our consultant for, it's not a big change, you know, it's the City of Kingman logo. We've just added the airplane swoosh on it. We think it's quite appropriate and quite nice for our airport logo for the airport division. Okay. So this is the overview. We did a master plan update, development and talked about the development of it and the approval process for it. I'm not going to go into that here because you guys got that last month. I did an airport project update that was very similar to what I've just shared with you fellers. And then we did an airport part 139 operating certificate discussion, which was also quite similar to what we covered at the last commission meeting. And then I talked about the airport operating analogous and some best practice recommendation. I'll probably spend a little bit more time on that. So here's the basic discussion. Matt actually did a presentation, Matt Quick from Kaufman and Associates, on the master plan. And we will take the master plan and place it on the consent agenda at the next meeting. So the 5th of January, it will be on the City Council meeting for approval of the final draft. We've also submitted the airport layout plan to the FAA to begin their review process. We've also made it clear to them that it hasn't been fully approved at this time by the City Council. So that's, I've shared with them the fact that the commission has approved a recommendation to City Council to approve the master plan. Did a little project. This is a shot of the new markings and the new pavement on the runway. I've already talked about all these projects, so I won't go into any detail there. These are some shots of the new sign faces. As you can see, the difference between the faded sign panels and the new sign panels, and a shot that we took at night when we did our morning inspection when it was dark. That's a picture of the back of the terminal in better days, as you might have recognized. We talked about those projects. And then this is, you see these red lines, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Anspoker, these red lines that are here. Those are the areas where Mr. Johnson actually had some millings placed so that they could be used to actually tow aircraft in and out of those areas. So this entire area here is available for the storage of aircraft. You know, we need to be careful about how close we get to taxiways and runways, but there's a lot of room out there. And of course, this is the first phase of the fence project that we're hoping to do this year, where we just kind of relocate the fence this way and get all kinds of new space out there. And this is the second phase over here, which I'm actually doing a capital improvement budget request for next year to do the second phase of the fence relocation. And here's a shot of Taxiway Bravo from Taxiway Delta looking to the essentially south on Taxiway Bravo for the new area that's going to be reconstructed. Went over all the same stuff in the operating certificate. What we were doing was taking the opportunity at the last council meeting to do all the informing and answer any questions that the council might have, and then we'll just place these for approval on the consent agenda at the next meeting. There were no questions on any of the things that we covered at the council meeting last week. So one of the things that Mr. Foggin, when he asked me to come back and serve as the interim manager, he asked me to look at the airport and do an operational review of the way we do things, and then maybe make some suggestions on industry best practices. So that's what I've done. I submitted a report to him of about 17 different items that I'd identified for work, and I've kind of boiled them down into these 4 broad categories. The access control system is in need of upgrade, and it's actually in our airport capital improvement plan to be upgraded to a more robust and a smarter system, if you will, one that can be controlled from the terminal, one that can be monitored from the terminal. That includes both people coming and going, as well as perhaps putting in video at the gates. So we're in the process. The gate codes that we're currently using to access the airport have been out there for decades probably, and need to be changed. And I suggest that we change them. It's not gonna, you know, it's gonna be a little inconvenient for people at the initial process, but I think it's something that we should certainly look into. We haven't fully made that decision, but it's something that we're investigating right now. We need to do a better job of compliance and enforcement. It's our job as the airport operator to ensure that all of our businesses and tenants and users of the airport are compliant with the rules. And I'm not saying that by and large they're not, but I am saying that we need to do a better job. We see people driving more than 15 miles an hour out there. We need to stop and have an education with them. So it's just those kinds of things. Fuel handling. We need to do a better job of monitoring the fuel handling. That's our responsibility as the airport, to ensure that fuel handlers are properly trained, equipment is properly taken care of, all of those kinds of things. So that's an area that we need to look at a little more closely. Another thing is we need to evaluate and update all of our airport rules, regulations, and policies. Our rules and regulations have been in place. I think they were approved in the 90s, and they were there was some updates to them. I think it was like maybe 2008 or something like that. We need to really go through and look at those and make sure that they're as up to date as they should be. And that's our rules and regulations, our leasing policies, our, all of the guidance, all of the policies for the airport. Maintenance procedures, we need to do a better job of planning, tracking, and scheduling maintenance. I think some of you have seen some of that, the results of us not doing that appropriately. But one of the things that Public Works has is a good system of tracking work orders, if you will. You know, it documents them, it tracks how long it takes, it assigns them to somebody. So things like that, I think, are in our best interest to continue to investigate. We need to increase our annual maintenance funding. Pavement and electrical is just one example. We need to have a dedicated amount of money each year in the budget that we do pavement maintenance, that we do electrical maintenance. Contract service providers to supplement staff, we're looking at potentially having a requirements contract with an airfield electrical company, that they come out and do a once or twice a year evaluation of the system, that they have some built-in response times and rates, service rates, that when we have problems with our electrical system, airfield electrical system, that we have somebody to call. So looking at those contract service providers to supplement staff. Business practices, we need to evaluate all our leases and agreements, and I know that's something that the commission has been doing also with regards to rates and fees. We need to evaluate our rates and fees, and here again, that's something that we're in the process of doing. But it's not just the hangars or the tie downs. I think we need to look at what our aircraft storage rates are. For the large aircraft storage, we're probably on the lower end. Our fuel flow fees are some of the lowest in the state as far as what's paid to the airport for the dispensing of fuel. So we need to evaluate the rates and fees. We need to look at our marketing procedures, and we've got some ideas to maybe make some targeted. We've come up. Bennett, Lisa, and our consultant have come up with some decent brochures that at least give us something to provide to people when they're showing an interest in doing business on the airport. But we're also planning on putting together maybe some targeted packages, like for somebody who might want to come in and build aircraft storage hangars, for somebody who might want to be a large aircraft storage operator, for somebody who might want to be a maintenance provider on the field. Put some targeted packages together that are specific to that request. One of the ideas that we had. We need to do better tracking of where we're spending and making our money. Revenue tracking and cost, both cost center and revenue center tracking is critical. You need to know where you're making your money and where you're spending your money. There's an adage that says you can't manage what you can't measure. And so just, many of us are just sort of reactive, and we need to be able to be more proactive. And then with regards to staffing and coverage, I already talked about the expand to 7-day coverage, expand contract security, and I also think we need an airport supervisor position. I said that when I was here 2 years ago, and I stand by that today. And so I'll be putting that in our supplemental budget request to bring that position back for the supervising the day-to-day operations of the airport. Airport manager needs to not be looking down. The airport manager needs to be looking ahead and looking forward. And if you're constantly looking down and managing the day-to-day operations, you don't have the time to look forward. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to just make the job easier. I'm just saying this is the best way to do it. So those were my recommendations. Like I said, there's about 17 different recommendations that cover these various items. And that was what I shared with the city council. And then I asked them if they had any questions and thanked them, and showed him this beautiful picture of the sunset that was taken from the airport, and that's kind of where we were. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, that is my very lengthy and windy airport report today. I hope that it's more comprehensive than perhaps it was last month, which was my first time back reporting to you. I think I've kind of really got my arms around the airport and what our needs are, and know what I know and know what I don't know, and feel like I'm in a good position to be effective, and wanted to share that with you in a very comprehensive way today. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, so ends my report.
I have one. Well, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to ask if the city council members had any questions for you after your presentation.
Not one, and I was quite surprised.
Okay. Do you, with the loss of essentially 2 people, do you think you need some extra help to accomplish all the things that need to be accomplished?
Well, I think I need help, and I think the Public Works Department, my new boss, and the department director over there have certainly let me know that they're willing to do whatever is needed to help us in the interim process. I also am getting a lot of, I've been out these now it's going to be 2 weeks, and so my Mr. Kellogg and the rest of the staff have been very helpful on helping me take care of the things that are there. As I said, I've opened up the recruitment for the airport operations and maintenance specialist position, and I've investigated the options for potentially bringing on a temporary staff member, you know, somebody that could help us take care of some of the more routine tasks, especially while our staff is training and cross-training the new public works staff. So, I mean, the short answer is yes, we're going to need some help to get through. And the bigger answer is we're getting a lot of help and we've got a lot of plans.
Well, good. I just wanted to mention your predecessor was also in favor of changing the gate codes. And
Good.
I think everybody on the commission thought that was probably a good idea. So I don't think any of us would object to changing the codes. They've been that way, I think, for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Probably longer.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Ansbacher, thank you, and I agree, and I think it's something we'll probably start looking at pretty hard right after the first of the year. I need to figure out exactly how we need to do it. I'm not familiar with the precise hardware that we have out there and how you actually make changes, but we'll get it figured out.
Joe, I got a question. Back to your logo, I hate to be nitpicking, but you got a horizontal view of the wings of an airplane, and you got the vertical view, and you got the horizontal stabilizer. It's a twisted fuselage. I'd kind of like to see a horizontal stabilizer back there.
Yeah. I appreciate your attention to detail, and yes, it's not completely aeronautically correct. Yeah. But it seems to be flying. So, you know, there was one of my favorite lines from the Apollo 13 movie was when a couple of the folks from NASA were explaining to his mother, you know, that you know, he's in trouble, and they're in trouble out there in space, and she says, "If a washing machine could fly, my Jimmy could land it." And so that's one of my favorite things. So that we'll just call it a washing machine for now.
Thank you,
All right.
Joe.
Yep.
Item 4, old business. Item 4A,
Old business.
airport budget report.
So,
Joe, you're up.
yeah, thanks. You're going to be tired of hearing me in no time here. So here's on your screen, you should be able to see the division budget report. This is kind of how I'm going to present it from this point forward. I think it kind of covers everything and gives a good overview. But you've got, we're 42% of the fiscal year. This is as of essentially the end of November. We're almost halfway there right now, but for the purposes of these figures, they're through the end of November. So we've had $644,721 in revenue to the overall division budget, and we've had expenses of $746 and $746,053, which is 53% of the budget, and we're 42% through the year. So at first appearance, it appear that we're over budget. We've spent on a percentage basis more than we've taken in, which is not actually the case. We've got total encumbrances in the budget. In other words, there's money earmarked in the budget that hasn't been spent for ongoing contracts and whatnot that extend throughout the year, of $401,910. So if you look at what we've actually spent, not including the encumbrances, we're at $344,143, or 24% of the budget. So having only spent 24% of the budget and being 42% through the year is actually pretty good. I thought it was worthwhile to share the dross. We've spent $7,600 this year, and we have encumbrances of $284,000. Now, I don't think we'll spend that $284,000 that's encumbered, but we could. But if you just look at that as a part of our budget, which is a $1.4 million budget, you know, dross represents almost $300,000. And so once we're past that, we're going to be in, you know, a much better place, if you will. And as I said, we encumber money each year based on what we think we'll spend, but that's not always what we do spend. So it's an encumbrance, and it's an encumbrance until it's actually money out the door. And then breaking things down for the airport and industrial park with the dross, So our revenue totals through the end of November were, as I mentioned before, 644,000 and change, almost 645. Of that, the airport's generated $548,000, and as you can see, I'm rounding up. And the industrial park has generated almost $97,000. That's a lot this year, and that's because that's $60,000, $40 or $60,000 catch-up payment that the Patriot Rail system sent to us. But those are the revenue sources and how they lay out. For expenses, we've had a total, as I mentioned earlier, of $746,000. Of that, the airport has spent $430,000. The industrial park has spent essentially $24,000, and then the Dross has encumbrances of that $291,000. So it's just a way to kind of show you where our costs lay out. And then finally, we had through the month of October fuel flow of almost 58,000 gallons of fuel that's been sold at the airport in the first. That, as I said, that would be the first quarter, so about 33% of the year. So in theory, you're looking at about 150 to 180,000 gallons on an annual basis. So there's the budget report, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
One thing. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
On that Patriot Rail SUP, isn't there anybody in our group or the council that's keeping track of that? I mean, that's a lot of money for quite a amount of time that they got behind there.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, was that Commissioner Finnegan that asked that question? We do watch, and what had really happened is they changed where they counted the cars a year or two ago, and they screwed up, and they identified it through their own internal audit. As far as are we watching? I think we do the best job that we can, but we don't have anybody that's going to be able to stand out there and count every car that comes on to the airport. So yes, we are paying attention. Do we have someone absolutely dedicated to do it? No, we don't. And perhaps that's something that we should think about in the future if we can afford the staff position to do that.
I think they have electronic equipment that does that.
You may be correct. I do not know.
Okay. Thank you.
One comment I just wanted to make there, Joe, on the Dross, the encumbrance on the Dross. That's going to be afforded by the DOJ in the end. So this is just kind of the paper, the accounting that we're looking at. But the DOJ will end up paying that money or whatever that we're looking back. But it's just they don't pay. So that's I talked to Tina earlier on that. So
okay.
Just want to let you know that it is not something the airport's going to be paying out. It's going to be with the DOJ.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to represent that it's a significant portion because it is listed in our budget. In other words, it's part of our operating budget on an annual basis. So it's what we measure the budget performance against. And I just want to make sure everybody was aware it's a fairly significant and sizable portion. But here again, I don't think we're going to spend, I don't know what the philosophy was for how they actually established. For this to be an encumbrance, there has to be something out there for them to encumber against. So, but thank you for the update, and I'll continue to get more educated on that as well, to the extent that I'm able in the period that I'll be here. Other questions or comments? Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I thank you for your indulgence and what has been a very long and windy report on my part.
We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Item 4B, rates and fees. This is brought back again for further discussion and possible action. One of the things that I know that Joe alluded to earlier that we did not address is the heavy iron that's parked out there in storage and where we sit, and the other fees are fairly easy to go around and do a comparison and do it that way. You can get good data fairly easily. On the storage end of it, and someone may correct me, but there's only a few operators, and it's very hard to get good data and to know where they're headed with it, because it is a unique niche market. So I just brought that up and figured I'd throw it out for a general discussion on that end of our rates and fees that we didn't spend any time on last time.
But just quickly, Mr. Chairman, I'm actually willing to, right now, the primary storage areas are Phoenix Goodyear Airport does large aircraft storage. Pinal Air Park does large aircraft storage. I think there might be another. Anyway, I'm happy to reach out and actually find out what they currently charge for large aircraft storage and bring that back to the commission. So I just.
Joe and commissioners, I checked with Tina, and we currently are paid $246.29 for a jet and $122.96 for a commercial prop. I was thinking possibly if we have to use a service like we did for the T hangars and other things, maybe we could get a service to do that. But if you think you can contact Goodyear and Marana and some of the ones in Arizona and maybe Roswell and Mojave in California, that would be much less expensive and just as accurate.
Yeah, we can at least ballpark and decide which way, whether we'd spend the money for an expert, which I don't know how much that pays off, but at least we get a feel for where we're at that way. Would make a rough estimate for making a decision, if that makes sense. That sounds good to me.
Well, and I think what we're trying to get is just basically what they're charging per tail. And, you know, I don't know that we need a whole lot more than that to do an adequate evaluation of where our pricing is. And that's going to be something that's easily going to be obtained by us.
Well, the big thing is if they need hangar space, you go to George, you've got it. Other areas, I know New Mexico, they've got it there. They've got plenty. We don't have that. If you have to jack and swing gear and do certain maintenance items, you've got to be inside. So it's not apples to apples when you make just a quickie. You can get the numbers, but if the operation has advantages that they have the hangars and be able to do certain things, that puts you have to adjust lower, higher, whatever, which way you're going to go. But that's one of the things that why I said I didn't have a good feel on exactly how they were operating.
Yeah, and I would agree. The other difference is a lot of the like Roswell and some of the others, they have a lot of pavement to store aircraft on. But Goodyear, on the other hand, doesn't. Everything's on dirt, if you will. So there are a lot of apples and oranges out there. As far as like hangar space, you would charge that separately to an operator. I realize that having some of those things as amenities or availability potentially could have an effect on your aircraft storage fees. But I still think we can get to, we can get some of that. Goodyear is a great example of an airport that's very similar to ours. They have some facilities. They're all under lease by one maintenance, repair, and overhaul operator. And then they have storage essentially on the dirt. So I think just looking at that, I think Pinal is a very similar airport with regards to they have facilities there. However, they're all currently under lease to one MRO, and then they mostly store on dirt. So it's I think we can get some good comparative information, at least to get us started, and then we can kind of move from there. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, so I'm thinking that maybe we should wait to go back to city council on any rate changes until we have the big iron involved as well.
I think that from my end, that would be advisable too, where we delay and then wait and see how we're gonna do it, kind of as a package. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yes, I believe we discussed that last month as well, to make it a comprehensive rates and fees package. That makes the only sense to me.
Okay.
I would like to address the report that Joe put together for us and added as an addendum. I believe everybody got a copy of the hangar rate analysis that Joe was able to do for us. I really appreciate the work you put into that, Joe. It seems to give us a lot of information to make a good comparison, because it's not as easy as just adding them all up and dividing by the denominator to find out an average. Yeah. Because of amenities and location and socioeconomic questions. So it is difficult, but your analysis, I think, was good. I just wanted to bring up one thing. In the last paragraph, the third line down, you have that IGM rates are still less than the group average by approximately $20. My math says that we're $20 above the sample group average. Our sample group average is 336, and we're at 356 at IGM. So I think the comparison is good. I think if we bring this back next month, we can use that 336 as a good place to start for our T-hangers. And we've already taken action on the shades and tie downs. And so we'll just be working on finishing up this T-hangers and the big iron storage.
Yep. Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Burrows, thank you for pointing out the error, and I'm certainly happy, certainly happy to go back and double check that. The other thing is, you know, what I did, and this was an update on what I did 2 years ago, just to go back and look at the current market, but it's really high level, and it's really, I mean, it is what it is. There's a little bit of art and a little bit of science in there. But I think it gives us at least something to compare it to. The other thing I would say is that when you're looking at square footage, the reason I took the approach that I took is we're talking about a hangar as a place to store an airplane. And some of them at various airports are going to be bigger and smaller, but at the end of the day, you're looking for a hangar to store an airplane in. And I think that's kind of the approach that I took was, you know, instead of looking at the square foot cost, let's look at the cost to rent a hangar, realizing that there are differences. So I just wanted to sort of explain my approach a little bit more, and thank you, Commissioner Burrows.
And I don't disagree with your the way you went about that, because for others who down the line are considering these rates, the square footage makes it very confusing. If we talk about a single hangar and a rate, I think it's a lot easier to digest. Keeping in mind that we will still need to make a slight adjustment for the D hangars.
Any more comments? Anyone else? Got any to add to that? Okay, so in essence, we're going to table this item to bring back next month. Joe can give a report on the big iron, and if we have any additional comments, it'll just be an action item for next month. Okay. New business. Acceptance of the ADOT Taxiway B. Joe?
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I've talked about this a lot already, but here's the bottom line. We received about a week and a half ago from ADOT the grant award documents for the Taxiway B construction, though we had to then fill out some basic information, fill in the blank schedule and stuff like that. Those will be going to City Council for approval. That grant award, the acceptance of that grant award and authorizing the city manager to sign it is planned to go to council on the 5th of January. And so we're ready to submit that, but as with all things, I'm thankful because we never want to delay any further than is necessary accepting a grant and getting work started. But whenever it's necessary, I'm of the mind that things like this should come to the commission before they go to council. So we're very fortunate that the timing worked out that way. And so our recommendation is that you provide approval to accept the grant and forward to City Council the recommendation to approve. For essentially the amount of money we will get from the state will be about $1.25 million. And then we'll have to come up with about $139,000 of our match requirement. It's a 10% grant with the state. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we recommend approval to accept the grant from the Arizona Department of Transportation Aeronautics Group.
Joe, before I make that motion, I want to ask you one simple question. Is there any reason we should not accept this?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Burrows. No reason at all. We've done it. We actually have already accepted the first phase grant, which was for design last March. Yes. Now we're going to take second phase, and then ultimately there'll be a third phase down the road. But
right.
No,
I
sir.
move that we accept this particular grant for Taxiway Bravo.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Let me rephrase that. I move that we advise council that we're supporting the acceptance of this grant.
I second it.
Tim seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it.
Very good.
Item
Thank
5B.
you.
Commission chair and vice chair positions. I know this was just going to be discussion, but there is going to be a change in the new year, so it's something that came up, and so I'm just going to open it up for a little discussion right now. And
all right, I was the one that asked this to be put on the agenda. I just wanted the board to discuss it and make a decision whether we wanted to fill those positions with our existing board or wait for the new commissioners to come on board, or at least wait till next month to establish those positions. And personally, I'm good with it either way. By doing it now, we have the advantage of experienced commissioners. By waiting until the new commissioners come on board, we give new commissioners a sense of being involved.
personally, I'm of the ilk to wait till everyone gets on board. They can elect the person. I mean, it would behoove us to have knowledge transition, but that's the way I feel, rather than us take it and hand something over. Then everyone feels involved. That's my personal opinion on that one.
The only problem I see with that is who's going to run the meeting until we vote at the next meeting?
If he's if he's so inclined, Scott, you could actually continue on until such time as you select that person.
Yes, I will do that. We'll run it until we hand over like the city does the gavel and do it. And that
would be correct. Yes. And your idea is excellent, I think, in letting the new commissioners have a crack at it. Yes.
Yep.
And Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, just for information, I have seen forwarded to us that the council is considering, I believe we've got 4 or 5 new applicants since the recruitment has been open for commissioners. And then we also are going to go back and just see if any of the previous applicants are interested in being considered. So I just wanted to let you know kind of where we were with regards to applicant count at this time.
Okay.
All right, in that case, I will make the motion that we set on the agenda for our next scheduled meeting to select a chairperson and a vice chairperson.
Second by Tim. Any discussion? Ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it.
Were we going to, before we go to announcements, and since we're discussing the next meeting, would now be the appropriate time to establish the time and date for our January and February meeting?
Pardon me, Mr. Chair, I did check with city clerk, your January meeting,
Okay,
the 25th is open,
good.
and this February meeting, the 22nd is also open.
Excellent.
All right,
Can
then
those meetings be hybrid? Janie?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Amspoker, the most recent, it was evaluated within the last month and determined that all the commissions would continue in a virtual format, and only the city council at this time is being conducted in a hybrid manner. So I did investigate that based on the discussion at our last meeting, but we're still Zooming for a little while yet.
Thank you, Joe.
in that case, I'll renew my motion that we set our January meeting for the 25th at 1500 and our February meeting on February 22nd at 1500 hours.
I have a motion. A second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
John Stutzman second.
John seconded it? Am I correct? Okay. John seconded, excuse me. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All against? No nays? Ayes have it. Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Chairman, one thing I forgot to cover in my airport report, if you can believe I forgot anything, is the door seal. Commissioner Burrows had asked us to look at some door seal replacement in the sea hangars. I just wanted to give an update. It was on my list and I passed it over. We've got the scissor lift now, which is going to be helpful in doing that, as well as we have some material from previous door seal replacement that we've actually brought into the shop and laid it out to get it flat. My question to Commissioner Burrows is I don't know exactly how much material we have. Is there a hangar that you're aware of that we should start at?
Yes, and I just want to make sure we're on the right row. This is the row of T hangars that are closest to shade hangars. Now, in looking at those rubber seals, I noticed that the one closest to the restrooms is the worst, and they get a little bit better as they go, what would that be, northeast bound?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the southwest is the worst one.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrows and Mr. Chairman.
The other thing I'm just going to throw out there, as long as we're talking on that, is the seals right now are rubberized with fabric in between or whatever, and that's kind of standard. West Coast Netting uses a hybrid on some of their nets that they run over, and they may be able to provide a different material, but something that's very durable, made for volleyball nets and hitting. It would behoove us to just investigate and go over there and talk to Dan Kirkland and see if it comes in a wide enough strip, or we could get it done that way, and check costs too, but it would be worth just checking out a local source across the street.
I certainly would agree, and thank you.
On that same note, I made a mistake of putting door seals on my garage and making it fit to the exact size. And 2 years later, they shrunk about 6 inches on each side. So.
Okay. Are you sure the garage didn't grow?
I wish.
Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Announcements by commission members. What do we have? Anyone have something?
I have nothing.
I guess EAA is still in business. We just don't have anything going on down there right now. So we're still there, just waiting to see how things shape up.
Commissioner Gerlach and Mr. Chairman, is your meetings, are they still the first Saturday, and are you conducting them?
Yes.
Correct.
Well, let me see if there's the possibility I might be able to hang and attend and answer any questions that anybody might have.
Although in January, it's moved to the second weekend, second Saturday.
Thank you, sir.
Joe, one other thing, do we have anybody that's keeping an eye on the government auctions and stuff for equipment that we might need? I mean, there is some really great stuff. They're talking about those expensive lockers. Well, 7,000 or something, but the military has hundreds and hundreds of that kind of stuff. Plus, I would really like to see you have a camera system that's a FLIR system out there that, and a lot of used stuff out there that they just give away to another municipality.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Finnegan, I have not, and I'm not aware that anybody is keeping an eye on that. I'll try to look into it a little bit. And I would say to the commission and to others, if there's anything anybody stumbles across, make us aware. Municipal government can be challenging. If it's something that we're buying, it can be challenging because if it's not budgeted, or it's hard to be nimble and to move quickly, which sometimes you have to do in an auction environment. But if it's just surplus property, those, are relatively easy with regards to how we could potentially accept government property. But thank you for the suggestion.
It's a weird looking backhoe, Joe.
Believe me, I know.
With that, I don't see anything else. I do not have anything. Item 7, adjournment. Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ayes have it.